Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and we got a bit of a transitional week here. Shame it's not better. And this, it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So weeks like this always feel a bit strange to talk about because, again, very clearly transitional. Next week, Future and Metro Boomin have an album bomb coming, plus bonus tracks from Olivia Rodrigo's Guts Deluxe release. So it's gonna be probably pretty busy, with enough new songs that it could easily reshape the entire Hot 100, even if the UMG TikTok feud impacts all of it. And incidentally, if you're sick of me bringing that up, it's not gonna change. It has impacted the majority of the mainstream music industry in some capacity, with observable impacts on the Hot 100, including the artists that you say you care about. They are people I know personally who have lost work and tangible money from this executive dick-waving contest, and I'm in the fortunate position where I can cover it at length in comparison with media that doesn't want to challenge or risk their relationships. I mean, the Billboard Hot 100 might be a sloppily maintained, intensely compromised industry farce, but there are people caught up within that system where this shit impacts their lives, and my and your attention to it, I think it's deserved. But anyway, let's get into our top 10, and what I have been predicting in some form for weeks now, Lose Control by Teddy Swims has finally taken the number one. Let's make this abundantly clear. It's not a strong number one. It doesn't have the top spot in sales or streaming or the radio, the last of which is probably driving this the most, but that's the power of having just enough in every single category for at least 1 week. Now look, Future, Metro Boomin, and Kendrick Lamar are coming next week, and it will not be close, but it was enough to beat out Beautiful Things by Benson Boone, currently at number 2, where he actually has better sales and streaming, but he lags significantly on the radio. He could not close up that margin. Next, we saw the slight drop off for We Can't Be Friends, Wait for Your Love by Ariana Grande, slipping from the top spot down to number 3, where dominance in streaming is supported by some real radio traction. It's going to be interesting to see how much momentum this will have, minus TikTok traction, at least official TikTok traction, and the album bombs that are coming. We will have to see. But it was enough to hold over Lovin' on Me by Jack Harlow at number 4, which is just slipping into radio freefall, but had a good enough streaming week to actually jump over Carnival by Kanye West, Ty Dolla $ign, Rich the Kid, and Playboy Cardi at number 5. Turns out when all you really have is streaming, it's hard to gain any actual traction. It's probably going to fall off even harder next week. Now what actually is holding steady is Texas Hold'em by Beyonce at number 6, as good sales and the radio surge has really shored up some losses on streaming, and it's going to rebound when the album comes out in a couple weeks, well, this Friday, but it impacts the chart later. But that takes us to I Remember Everything by Zach Bryan and Kacey Musgraves at number 7, which does surprise me. The radio didn't pick up. It only saw marginal streaming gains, maybe because Kacey Musgraves' album dropped, it got some sympathetic streams. Either way, it jumped over Greedy by Tate McRae at number 8. When all you really have is radio and that's on the downswing, this will happen. And it takes us to our new debut in the top 10, Enough, Miami by Cardi B at number 9. And in this case, it looks like Atlantic might be playing their cards shrewdly. The sales were dominant, but streaming is actually a little bit sluggish, and yet the radio push has already started. We'll get into the song itself later on, but it looks like Cardi is finally in album mode. About time. But let's end this off. Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift snagged number 10 again because it had a decent enough week, not losing in all channels, to hold over some stuff that's falling right past it. Now that naturally takes us to our losers and our dropouts. And in the latter group, there are a couple notable ones, specifically in country, with World on Fire by Nate Smith actually clinching a year-end list spot for 2024, and The Painter by Cody Johnson likely being extremely close, probably just on the edge. Standing Next to You by Jungkook, it's going to fall well short, it's gone too. Now the losers are not remotely surprising here either. Off the big remix, Act 2 Date at 8 by 4Bats and Drake slid to 19, Murder on the Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis Bextor is gracefully falling off at 86, and the rest, all from Ariana Grande's album bomb. So from the top, The Boy Is Mine at 34, Yes and at 36, Supernatural at 40, Eternal Sunshine at 49, Bye at 52, True Story at 66, Don't Want to Break Up Again at 68, Imperfect for You at 72, Intro End of the World at 79, and I Wish I Hated You at 85. Honestly, without TikTok promo, the fact that so much of this album stuck around is kind of impressive. Seems like it's an album that feels more memorable than some have indicated or implied. But alright, what's now filling in the gaps? Well, let's start off with the returns, all one of them. As We Don't Fight Anymore by Carly Pearce and Chris Stapleton rides its residual radio right back again at 100, but the gains appear a bit more interesting, especially as the majority of them seem to be in country. Right off the debut, we got Back Then Right Here by Tyler Hubbard up to 83, and Austin by Dasha at 59. I mean, she's on Warner, she can leverage TikTok here. And alongside them, thanks to Nashville Radio and residual album bomb losses around them, Tucson Too Late by Jordan Davis at 81, Burn It Down by Parker McCollum rebounded from its losses to 42, and Man Made a Bar by Morgan Wallen and Eric Church hit 28. Then we had some album releases that seem to be contributing to growth, like Never Lose Me by Flo Milli at 15, really hope the remix gets credited, it's much better, and Selfish by Justin Timberlake at 30. I'll admit I was a little bit personally surprised by Timberlake's gains, but he is on RCA, that's under Sony, he's got name recognition, and End of Beginning by Dijo continues to rocket up to 11. Again, if you've got TikTok promo right now, take advantage of Universal's absence. Now the last few are kind of scattered. By Big X The Plug rose to 70, largely independent, he's got TikTok and streaming traction. Bandit by Don Toliver hit 60, he's on Atlantic, similar results. Scared to Start by Michael Markagi hit 56, chalked that up to Warner trying to fill in the Noah Kahan gap while Noah Kahan is stuck under Universal and Capitol, and Get In With Me by BossMan Dlow at 50. He's on Alamo, and with the new single this week that we will talk about, we might actually have some credible groundswell here, for better or for worse. But that leads to a considerable list of new arrivals where I have no clue how long any of them are gonna last given what's coming next week. Number 98's Gata Only by FloyyMenor and Cris MJ. It's always interesting to look back over my records and recognize there are Latino acts that I've discussed before, and I can't remotely remember when it happened on Billboard Breakdown. In this case, for Cris MJ, a Chilean act who saw worldwide success in 2022 with a song that Karol G remixed last year, and I covered it then. Now, this is a collab with another Chilean artist, a remix of his original version of this song from late last year, and wow, I don't care about this at all. These two guys smothered in watery vocal filters that only diminish their personality against this faded melody, stock reggaeton beat, and some truly awful squealing synths where their brand of being infatuated is wanting to abduct this girl. Seriously, it's mentioned multiple times off the refrain, and even if it's trying to play coy or fantasy with this girl she might be into it as she shakes her ass on TikTok, by the end of the one verse, it implies she's kinda over these guys, and neither of them have anywhere close to enough personality to sell climaxing on top of you when translated. I mean, I get what it's trying to do, but it sounds dated and too tedious to justify being this gross. In other words, it sucks. Next. Number 96, We Ride by Bryan Martin.
Songs, loving and leaving and get too stoned. Bottle and a pistol by my side. The devil's always along for the ride.
The funny thing tracking other charts worldwide is sometimes you'll see songs linger for months and only cross over months after they may have reached their peak worldwide. Hence we got Bryan Martin, an indie country act out of Louisiana who landed some virality and signed to Average Joe's Entertainment. The label founded by Colt Ford, one of the godfathers of bro country. Ergo, I had no idea what to expect going into this, and well, you know what, if you were looking for one of those craggy, swaggering country rock cuts that's got the polish of something that could be pitched potentially to mainstream Nashville, it would be this. And I'll give Martin this, he's got the expressive grit in his voice to belt and back up the sharper, snarled guitar line and the touches of organ, and the hard-living patter at least translates to a solidly catchy hook, even if the list-driven writing feels pretty disposable. If I've got an issue with this, it probably comes with the percussion, namely the cymbals that are probably the loudest element in the mix here compared to the snare or the kick drum, or, you know, the fact that there's no real muscle to any low-end groove or bass line. It feels very formless there. I mean, I'll give the hook some credit for being somewhat decent, but the rest, take it or leave it. This should go way harder than it does. Number 95, Baby Please by Ivan Cornejo. And speaking of acts that I mostly forgot until I realized I've covered them multiple times, though in this case it might be more because I haven't really liked anything he's done, and well, given he's now backed by Interscope at the worst possible time, I guess I should be somewhat surprised he was able to return to the Hot 100 at all. But to his credit, for as hyperbolic as the selfish post-breakup melodrama here is, it's probably his most interestingly produced song in some time, balancing out the gentle acoustics with jingling percussion, swells of organ and strings, some thicker backing vocals which are really needed, and enough reverb to amplify the angst and loneliness at the core. I mean, the whining can be a lot, but it's better executed here at least. I mean, I don't expect it to really last given what's coming, but as it is, I mean, my record with this guy is not good. This is tolerable. I'll take that as a win. Number 93, Mr. Pot Scraper by BossMan Dlow.
Stepping on a dope, I'm Mr. Ride Foreign, I'm Mr. Ain't Going, he Mr. Pump Faker, I'm Mr. Pot Scraper.
Alright, looks like BossMan Dlow's momentum is contributing to more songs charting. I kinda wish I liked his breakthrough single more, but hey, maybe this new one will work. Well, the production's at least more interesting. That staccato guitar line, along with more of a groove alongside the keys and bells and brittle trap percussion. There is a solid melodic hook here, and okay, look, I get BossMan Dlow's appeal. His drawl and slightly offbeat delivery, it's kinda distinctive at the very least, even if for me it comes across as pretty clumsy when the bars themselves are really nothing special. I think that's my big frustration with this guy. The flexing is so bog standard that it doesn't match the personality of his delivery, especially when you're only getting the one verse. Overall, yeah, okay, the production is better, and I think the hook has a little bit more character to it, but I'm sorry, still not impressed. Number 76, Deeper Well by Kacey Musgraves.
And I've got to take care of myself. I found a deeper well.
Alright, look, don't get it twisted. I'm happy Kacey Musgraves is finally charting again on her own. I'm happy that her album got enough traction and attention for the title track to hit the Hot 100, even if it's likely only going to be here 1 week with the album bombs coming and being stuck on MCA Nashville with no TikTok promo, to say nothing of the radio ignoring her. And you know what? I do like that album. I reviewed it, even if I would not put it alongside her peak material. And it's a shame because while this song is good, it's by no means my favorite from Deeper Well. Now again, far from bad. The gentle, soft focus acoustic guitar against Kacey's very close and really pretty multi-track vocals, they're effective at capturing that ethereal vibe, although they do feel a little too touched up than they need to be, and I like how the song picks up some of that echoing choral presence amidst the weird flutters at the end of the hook. But I think some of the content is what's keeping me at a distance here. Sure, in one's healing journey, cutting out toxic people and smoking too much, that might be the right steps, move past that. And I like that the song isn't that judgmental about them or herself in her own steps. But then you get that bridge where she talks about growing up, where there were folks who thought the world was flat, and while she obviously knows better, it's okay they believe that, and no, I'm sorry, being just non-judgmental about ignorance, very obvious ignorance at that, because nobody can know everything, man. It is recklessly privileged, and I know Kacey knows better. Yes, I know she probably didn't think it that far through, and that might be my big issue with the album as a whole. And for this, it's fine, but it should be way better. Number 65, Friends by V.
Yeah, but friends don't say words that make friends feel like more than just friends, just for now.
I don't know why I continue to be surprised that V can chart on his own with singles. I kind of wish they had more staying power. They tend to debut pretty well thanks to sales, and then they sing fast, so With this, well, okay, I'm not against him going for a more soulful brand of R&B as he tries to convince this girl to put the end in friends. But what in God's name is this production? It sounds like it's going for an old school soul progression with that bass line that sounds pretty good, but the vocals sound like they're pressed through a half dozen different mechanical filters around the weedy melodies and that really screechy backing chorus, which only piles on the overdubs for the final hook, and it does not work at all. Part of V's strength is his organic, soulful singing. Why do this? Apparently the producers of this song worked with Joji on Glimpse of Us, and that mystifies me because you would think between them they managed to have some actual subtlety instead of this clunky mess. So, oh my god, I normally like the brand of maturity and subtlety that V has brought to the Hot 100 before, but this is not it. Not good. Number 54, Prada Dem by Gunna featuring Offset.
Out of here, 2024, out here, call paramedics, killing them, stepping on their necks, milling him, Louis leather vest, nigga trim, running up a check, stacking them.
I mean, credit to Gunna for being able to capitalize on momentum with another single ready to go, and hell, I like Bittersweet a decent bit more than I thought I would. Well, I didn't really expect it to be that interesting with that title. With Offset assisting, it could be decent. I mean, shame it's not really. Between the hazy, minor key flutters trying to evoke some elegance against the very stock trap percussion, Gunna is in stock flexing mode, with the only two remotely interesting lines being the assertion that he didn't snitch, honestly one of the few times he's been very direct about it, and a poop reference. And sadly, while Offset's flow is fine, the mixing seems to imply he recorded this in a different state, and the content is nothing to write home about. Again, more flexing. Honestly, while Gunna has seen something of a comeback past year or so, what will probably ultimately be his downfall is probably just more sliding into the background and getting really boring again. And with cuts like this, it's very possible. Number 23, Get It Sexyy by Sexyy Red.
Bills paid, catch me sliding in a Benz. I ain't looking for no man, I ain't recruiting no new friends. Louis bag filled with bands, gone sexy, do your dance.
Oh, I wish there could be a nuanced conversation about Sexyy Red. I mean, I'm not really a fan because of the technical issues with the flow and a swath of women in rap who can do her brand of content a lot better, but that opinion tends to get lumped in with folks who hate her brand of rap for inconsistent, misogynist, and generally really stupid reasons. Now, to her credit, she's a lot less sloppy than she used to be. The flows here are pretty basic, but she's making up for it with attitude, and Take Keith's beat actually goes pretty hard, and I actually like the melodic backing vocals on that first verse, that she then ditches for a nursery rhyme flow on the second verse, and her limitations are ringing through yet again. You can very clearly tell this was built more for a larger stage, for people to shout back lines when they drop out the beat. I mean, the song does not have that much of a hook, and I can imagine it being pretty effective in that lane, especially as her label situation doesn't seem to induce a ton of competition. She's got that TikTok promo, but I also don't hear the wild creativity that some fans have cited, which means I'm lukewarm at best on this, and she's not a good enough MC compared to Meg Thee Stallion or Flo Milli, or finally number 9, Enough Miami by Cardi B.
Enough is enough. They was just in my DMs. Ain't no trust in these sluts. I'm about to call up Diamond, bitch. No, if you
Okay, this has to be the Cardi B album rollout, right? We got the promo singles that are getting staggered effectively. She's on Atlantic, that has access to TikTok. This should work, right? Well, honestly, maybe it's just a week where I've been really underwhelmed, but I like this a lot more than Like What Freestyle. This feels like a single that can really work and grow on me. The wiry synth bass against the trap percussion and hollowed out haze behind Cardi, and while the wiry synth spurts on the hook aren't really my thing, Cardi actually sounding engaged and hungry, that's what I wanted to hear. She's a great personality. Yeah, it's a flex on the haters, not always her best lane, but her quirkier sense of humor really comes out, especially in the second verse where her flow varies a little bit more. Although, yeah, I'm gonna say it, those are absolutely some inflections that she owes to Nicki Minaj. Is it Cardi's best song? God no. I think the extraneous flourishes on the hook and some of the crime mob interpolation of Knuck If You Buck doesn't quite work as well as I was hoping, but in the never-ending list of singles to roll out for this sophomore album, I think it's one of the better ones. Yeah, I think it's good. I'll take it. In fact, you know what? Screw it. It's getting best of the week. Deeper Well by Kacey Musgraves is getting the honorable mention. Bet y'all didn't see that one coming. Worst of the week is going to Gata Only by Cris MJ and FloyyMenor, with the dishonorable mention going to Friends by V. That song should be way better than it is. Real disappointment there. But next week, I mean, between Future and Metro Boomin and Olivia Rodrigo and Hozier and more, it's gonna be pretty wild. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.